Hello, 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 and welcome to Masterclass 1111 Live Life Simply. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing somebody that I think is an amazing human being, a quiet storm, and I'll say a little bit more later, Miss Sharon Gutierrez. Hey, Sharon, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me. A quiet storm. I like that. I'm like, you kind of got me hooked on it.
I
Quiet.
told you I wasn't going to tell you. I wasn't going to tell you all the details before. So here's what I've got to tell you all about Miss Sharon Gutierrez. She's a quiet storm. She's an amazing business coach with a touch of grace. She helped me personally through the dark night of my soul. And during that time, I grew my business incredibly. It was my side hustle at the time. And because of that, I was able to transform how I was living and now do the Cheryl Cooper, which she pushed me into naming full time. She is an experienced coach. She is a app CEO and so much more. I am forever grateful to you. And if you want to know how to live life differently and do some extraordinary things, then this is the session for you to participate in. She's going to tell us a little bit about manifestation. So, Sharon,
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about you, your journey, and then we'll take a deeper dive after that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me, and then all those like welcoming words. Like I adored working with you. Adore working with you. And I'm always like so impressed with how far your brand has come and how you've stepped into your own power, because it's very difficult as women sometimes, like for us to do that and truly own that you are the Cheryl Cooper. Like, oh, so powerful. Hopefully you're telling that story in the rest of this event. So a little bit about me. I like to always give a little bit of context, a little bit of background, because I think it's easy when we see entrepreneurs and maybe things like a little bit glitzy and glammy. I do like my glam for sure.
You can tell in the background,
I
a little
know, right? Yeah.
snail, a little leopard.
I'm like literally wearing leopard print skirt, everything. Like, you kind of see that snapshot, and it feels very unattainable, or it feels so far away from where you are, depending like on where you are in your journey, right? But for me, I have been a very non-traditional upbringing. Like I grew up in Alaska. My father had gone to prison. My mom had moved us up there. Me and my younger siblings. I didn't go to school, so my mom didn't leave in school, so we homeschooled, but she worked full time. So, that just kind of ended up us, raising ourselves. And so I went out into the world when I was about 16 without I'd never stepped foot in a classroom. I felt like I didn't understand how anything in the world worked retail, and like kind of was just like, I don't know, just kind of living life. I kind of knew I wanted something bigger. And I would imagine I used to vacuum at this retail store. And when I would do the opening and the closing, and I would imagine standing on a stage and telling my story. And I had I didn't even know that was a thing. I had never attended a conference before. Like, I just knew people stood on stages and did stuff, right? Like, seen on the internet or whatever, on TV. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And like, I had never thought about being an entrepreneur. I didn't really know what that was. But I had started like visualizing, just like, I was like, you know what? Somehow I'm going to break this cycle. I'm going to do something with my life, and I'm going to impact the lives of others by telling my story. And I was just like, I don't know what that story is going to be, because I'm currently vacuuming a store, whatever. And I was like, but like somehow it's going to happen. And so I ended up going to college, which was like definitely a story in itself, because, I had stepped into a classroom, but I had a lot of very gracious professors that helped, and a lot of not so gracious professors that kind of hindered. But, I went through college, left Alaska, because this was all happening in Alaska, moved to Hawaii, started working for a multi-million-dollar nonprofit as their marketing director. And then from there launched my first company. So I was in my mid-20s when that happened. And so it's just like, I didn't just step into this because I knew what it was. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was when I was 20, so it's like, if you have anything that's holding you back from thinking, oh, I don't know enough, or I don't have the background, or I don't have the support system, or like all of those things, like it's very possible. It's not always the easiest thing, but by having these conversations, I think that we can like learn and take ourselves further faster by learning from the experiences of others. So that's why I share those stories.
And you didn't even share the real deep parts of those stories, right? Like the things that were really deep, that really transformed your life, that pushed you forward and helped you to say, okay, this is it. I'm not going to continue this cycle in my family.
Yeah.
And I think that that helps you as a coach because you nurture us through that same type of cycle. Like, okay, you guys, I know you can do it. You are going to change lives, right? So what are you doing these days to change people's lives and to help people live life simply?
Ew, I love that. So I think at the core of it, I've always decided that my first business was an agency, right? A marketing agency. And I grew that over nearly a decade and like into multiple states. And by a lot of metrics, like it was a success, right? But I was really unhappy. I was really stressed out with my first business. And I decided that when I switched to coaching full time, that I wanted to build a business from flow, right? I was like, the Sharon that built this first company, like she was a workaholic. She saw all of her value in how much she could produce. And so I was like, I want to like forgive, love, and release that person and that version of myself and rebuild from a separate place and from a different place. And so right now, like I am Sharon Gutierrez. I am a international motivational speaker, best-selling author. And my main things right now is still doing coaching with just inspired entrepreneurs who are ambitious and wanting to make things happen. And then I've also developed an app for lead tracking for solopreneurs called Pretty Simple. So those are kind of like my main things right
Did you guys hear how she just let that flow off of her?
now.
Now, like forgive, live, love, and flow. And that's the way that I want my business to work every single day. That's how she's living her life now. So what are some of the things that you would share with people that are on this journey, maybe on a healing journey, whether it be heartache or struggle or, identity, any of that? You've got so much wisdom that I know that you can share. And then, talk a little bit about the process of imagination, visualization, as well as manifestation. I know I just gave you a whole lot,
I
but
know, right? I'm like, okay, I'll be like here back in 45 minutes. So, like, if you're going through a struggle, Cheryl alluded to it. Like, one of the things that I have learned to appreciate in like my own struggles over the years, whether it's, abuse, violence, sexual assault, dealing with drugs, alcohol, like all of these things that I used to like numb my life with, or I've experienced happen to me, like, I have like you experience like dark things, right? And like those things have like the world is fucking oppressive, right? So there's a lot that's thrown at us, especially as women and as brown and black women, right? And so in that, someone explained to me once, they're like, when we have these like extreme like depths of pain, we also have the equal heights of the ability of like joy, for capacity of joy and
oh,
happiness.
that's good.
And like for me, that changed everything. And it was just like, oh, because all I could see was I was living on this like surface level, and I could see and feel how much pain I had experienced and was currently experienced while I was going through the time of healing. And it was actually one of these conversations that like really prompted some of this healing. And then when I was like, oh my God, like that's right, I can experience these heights. I can also relate to so many fucking people. I can also say, there's not a lot of excuses because I've been there and done that and experienced that, right? And so you kind of look and like to truly understand that you can, like, we all know somebody who's lived that life where there's not been a lot of pain, not been a lot of joy, but this is a very simple life of mediocrity. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that because that's their journey. I would never wish anything, we can also put in the work, right? And the intention to experience greater heights of joy without like deeper suffering, all of that. But for those of us that have experienced that, when we can embrace that that's our truth, right? And that's like, okay, wow, that capacity of pain has increased my capacity for love and for joy and for happiness, then you can start to go through the healing process. And with like more hope, And so if you're going through something for like that, I would just like encourage you to kind of think of that visual and like let yourself go through the journey. Like none of this happens overnight too. Like I've been doing this like, I don't know. I've been an entrepreneur for well over 10 years now, a full-time entrepreneur. But I think my healing journey and my more spiritual journey really started about 7 years ago. And that was that was rocky. It was so rocky because like I literally wrote a book, like, you know, the journal, the manifest list, like now, but back then you couldn't get me to meditate. Like, you know, people like, cause I dealt with like anxiety and depression and it's like, oh, you should meditate. And I was like, I don't have time to meditate. It was like, you know, that's stupid. Like literally, like I was like, that's just stupid. Why would I just sit still and think about nothing? Like I have things to do. And so I would just like work and work and work and work and the hustle culture and like all of these things. And then it kind of realized, I was like, you know what, like something is just not working about this. And someone kind of challenged me again. Conversations like the ones we're having right now are the key to that healing and key to growth, like with the people that inspire you and that align with your core values, right? But someone challenged me to like dig deeper before like the whole discussion around finding your why and connecting with your why. So this was like, I think that got really popular like 5 or 6 years ago or whatever. So it's kind of like at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And someone had asked me, and I could not think of a nice air quote answer. All I could think of was like, you know, it wasn't from this place of serving. It wasn't from this place of loving the world. It was from a place of anger. I was like, I am driven to succeed because I do not want to continue this cycle and I do not know how to get off of it. And so this is like, I know I can work my way out of it. And like it was okay, you know, like it was okay to be in that space because that's who I was and that's where I was at that time. And so going through a journey of healing, going through a journey of like releasing that, like building from anger, striving and working and overworking, and then moving into a place of like healing and wanting and desiring or even understanding that a business could be built from a place of flow and simplicity. Like, I mean, that whole thing, I was just like, I started to uncover the different layers of my why. It started to change and it started to morph. And I think to me that's a beautiful thing. So it's okay, like as you're kind of going on this journey, you're going to transform like consistently. Like I go through evolutions like every 2 years, I swear, like where it's just like I just wake up and I'm like, okay, I can feel it shifting. Like that next level of me is like coming out. And so Cheryl's seen it happen a couple different times. And like, you know, it's just like, it's all part of the process. And so to embrace that change because it's beautiful, it's not a bad thing. So
You just left me with a whole bunch of questions for you.
okay, so
Like not quick things, but thoughts that just popped into my head. So tell us a little bit more about your meditation practice, right? Your mindfulness experiences and how you live in flow daily. And show a little bit of this and tell a little bit about
yeah, that's my diamond tattoo. Ooh, that looks good on the Zoom though.
It's good.
How detailed that is.
Yes. And it matches your fingernail polish. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
We'll
I got that done
when
I left Hawaii and moved to Atlanta. It was like one of the last things I did. I just stopped by and found somebody. Okay, so the question was on the meditation. So when I first like started to get a little bit open to it, I started off with guided meditations. I highly recommend Insight Timer. There's YouTube videos and stuff like that, but just quick 5-minute guided meditations. And I'm the kind of person though, like when I commit to something or I uncover something that's working, I tend to like, you know, dive right in. And so I remember doing my first one and I was like, that was helpful. You know, it was just like a quick 5-minute thing. And I was just like, so maybe there is something to this. And so I started doing it every day. And then I started looking at more meditations and like the guided ones with different messages and different focuses and started doing those. And then it went from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to 15 minutes to, 30 minutes. And then I started just like, listening to music or then being able to go into silence. And so it was just a really beautiful like journey. But it's like, it was okay that it was baby steps because I was so resistant to it. But I mean, if you're just getting started, guided meditations, I think are a great way. Just find somebody whose voice, the music, the vibe like resonates with you. And then just like it's all about letting yourself kind of go and just be super present, right? And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we can learn is like, being in the past is depression and the future is anxiety. But when we're present and fully here right now, that's when we're like our truest, like happiest self.
And it's such a gift for us. Okay, so then tell us a little bit about how intuition plays into your daily life, how you apply it to business journey, how you do intuitive coaching and manifestations.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm a super technical person. And I think that most people yeah, right. I think most people really underestimate that based on appearances. But like I started Like, when we go back to when I was not going to school, I was building websites, and I was transcribing papers for college students when I was 13. Like, so I was the nerdy kid for real. So I'm a pretty technical person. It's been a journey to tap into my intuitive side, but I've always been a very intuitive person. And I would explain that by like just being able, I remember when I was as young as like maybe 10, like knowing, being around someone, like in a kind of public setting, and then just realizing I knew all of these things about her. Like I had a high level of empathy, like I could feel that she was like suffering. And like I would like just walk up to strangers and like encourage them. And like, because that's just who I was, right? Where I was just like, oh, like this person's hurting, like, and just going up and comforting and being like, it's okay. Which is like, obviously, like now I look at it, I'm like, okay, that's kind of like creepy. I was a creepy kid, but you know what I mean? But like my heart was such in the right place. And so over the years, I really deadened that part of me. And I didn't want to, I closed it off. I was like, I don't want to know, I don't want to feel, I don't even want to feel my own pain, much less I don't want to experience somebody else's. I don't want to know. And so then over the years, though, as I kind of started my healing journey, I recognized that I was ready. Like I'd come to a place where I could actually like, feel what was going on in my heart and my soul. And I started being more open and receptive to like, reaching out and connecting with other people on a different level. So that's kind of like the process of that intuition. So now, I mean, I think that there's a mix of things, right? So there's a spiritual element. I think there's also like, the mind is a powerful thing. I think there's like so many learned things that we pick up on that like we're not consciously processing when it comes to other people. But, I do consider myself a very intuitive person. And so when I like built this business and decided first and foremost that I wanted to build my business from a place of flow. So what does that mean? Flow is the state when you're doing something that's you're good at, but you're not like too good at, right? It's challenging enough that it kind of inspires you and challenges you, but it's not so hard that you get frustrated. And that's kind of like when you're in a flow state, it's when you lose time. Like, so we all know we do things where we just kind of like lose time. There's actually a really kind of like sciencey book called, I think it's like Dichotomy of Flow. If you want to learn more about that. But so I decided I kind of was like, you know what, I want this to be easy. I want to like my business to be intuitively led. I want my life to just feel good again. I want it to be opposite of what I was doing before. I'm not afraid of work by any means, but I want it to be intentional, right? And I don't want to just like live just for work, right? So I kind of started like tapping into that intuition. And so when I'm in the space of doing like my technical planning for my business, I like, kind of go from that part of my brain where it's just like, here's the goals and here's the numbers and here's the thing. And then allow myself, and I've practiced that kind of method of just like switching into more intuitive space and saying, okay, but like, what's the inspired action? Like, let me journal about this. Let me, journaling prompts are amazing. I should publish those somewhere where it's just like, if you have like questions that come up, I'll like literally have questions that pop into my head. And then I'll start like journaling the answers to kind of like uncover things, right? So that's kind of like how the intuitive side of the business comes through. And then as far as the coaching, I think like with my, I have so many clients from different backgrounds, like just like if I put you all into a room, everyone would be like, what do we have in common, right? But I love that because it's like I attract it's like people who like are aligned energetically. Like that's all it is, right? Some people are super technical and some are very open and like Cheryl, like super connected to like the spiritual side too. And so with intuitive coaching, like as much as somebody is comfortable with me, then I'll allow myself to kind of tune in and like, spend a few minutes before I meet with them and just kind of ask like, okay, like, where are we at today? What's the message for today? And again, it does happen with consent. Like I'm not just like, oh, like let me just connect to everybody kind of thing, but it's a very intentional thing. And then with that, like when I'm on the coaching call, like sometimes there'll be things that just kind of come up, where it's like, okay, let me like talk about this, let me address this. Yeah, and
Yes.
like sometimes I'll know exactly like where it's going, but I know I'm not supposed to like say the whole thing. It's just kind of like, let me just ask this question. And the other times I'm not really sure, we'll be like, what about this? So I'm like, I don't know where this is going, but I feel like I need to ask this question, and it usually like moves things along.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful experience, you all. I don't know when Sharon's going to open back up her coaching sessions, but if you get a chance and you're interested in growing your business along with an intuitive type person that is extremely smart and very technical and knowledgeable in all kinds of ways, you can connect with her. There'll be more information on the website about that. So to wrap up, let's talk about the manifest list.
Yay!
How did you like decide to write that? How has it changed your life? How has it changed other people's lives?
So many cool things. So the manifest list, I have a copy of it here so I can like show it. Pretty. So Sharon. So but it's a bullet journal, and so it has quotes and stuff, and it has like intro, but basically it has these like daily exercises, right? So the manifest list was actually born of a time, like, so when I was talking about that healing journey that I was going on. So I was working in my agency, like, excuse me, I was my sister was working for me full time. I had moved from Hawaii to Atlanta, and I was just trying to figure out, like, I could feel there was a shift coming, but I wasn't sure what it was. And at that time, like, I was really like starting to kind of like more perfect the process of the growth that I go through because I tend to be so intense. And so I remember talking to my sister, and I was like, I need, how do I take this like spiritual side and marry it to the technical? I was like, I need routine. I need something that makes sense. And so I started doing this exercise where, every single day, like just kind of in my journal, I would write down, what are 6 things that I want to attract into my life. And that I would kind of allow myself to just daydream, visualize like all the things and like just kind of play with it. Like it could be anything, like clear skin, money, this client, this car, like just whatever. And then I would write down 20 things that I'm thankful for. And that would come, and like that switches your energy to a very grounded energy, right? When you have to name 20 things, like people are always like, why 20? That's like too many. I'm like, it's for a reason. The first 5 are easy. Next 5, a little bit harder. By the time you get to 15, you're like, well, what am I supposed to talk about? But I think it's when you get to that 20 that you start to really feel the gratitude, because you're
Mm.
reaching outside of whatever it is that you can see in your room. Like, I'm thankful for my coffee. I'm thankful for my phone. And then you start thinking, I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for this person who spoke into my life, 15 years ago that inspired me to do this or that, like you are thankful for your sight or your feeling of touch. Like, then it just like, it gets so deep and so profound.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. And so, and then the next thing I would do is, and what are 3 inspired actions to take to bring these things into my reality? And so I started doing it. Then I, was like, started to see a shift and like things happening. And I was like, I might be onto something. So I told my sister about it. She was living in Alaska. I was in Atlanta, and we would meet on Zoom. So we started doing it together. And so she's like, well, let's have fun with this. And she was like, she's like, I want a TV. And I was like, okay, cool. We can put that in there. Oh no, actually this is there's like 2 things that happened around the same time. One is that her car engine had gone out. And so she was a single mom at the time and everything. And so like, she was like, what am I going to do? She was like, I want a free car engine. So she put that in the manifest list. And I was like, okay. And then I had put, I want to be on TV. And so I had been playing with it, and I was like kind of circling TV, and we were talking, and I was just kind of doodling and stuff like that. And so then we went on with our day. The very next day, she was like, okay, the car got towed to the place. They looked at it. They called her up and were like, hey, we actually just like changed out the engine. Like, I think it was under warranty. We're not really sure, but since we like kind of messed up the paperwork, like it's fine. Like, just come pick it up. And she was like, well, how much is it going to cost? And they're like, nothing. And like, so she literally like manifested a free car engine. And we were just like, oh my God. And she was like, what just happened? And then the funny thing is that exact same day, she has like gotten a call from somebody, and they were moving, and they dropped off at her house this like big screen TV. It's like really like nice, expensive TV. And she was like, I don't think I put that on my list. And I was like, I started laughing, and I was like, I did. And I was like, so I
Aw.
pulled it up, and like I had it circled, and I was like, God, the universe is fun. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, here's a TV. Like, you're not on TV yet, but like, let me just deliver this other thing, and show you the signs and like all of that. So it's like things like that. I mean, I've heard people like where they've manifested new wardrobes and like all of these different things. And I'm just like, I love it. So when it comes to finding simplicity in our chaotic routines, it can feel like sometimes, we've talked about a lot of different tools, but for me, the manifest list is something that's super grounding, where it's just like, it's something I can go back to. I love having a written, like, a document where I can look back and see different seasons of my life, what it is that I was like wanting to attract into my life. And over again, like I have documentation of like what I was wanting, a year ago, 2 years ago, and what I was wanting to attract into my life. And it's fucking cool. It's a cool process. So yeah, so that's the manifest list.
I love it so much. Where can people get the manifest list?
You can go to themanifestlist.com and it'll redirect to Amazon.
Yay. Awesome. Awesome. So as we wrap up, tell me, what do you do kind of on a daily basis to live life simply?
What do I do? I I ask myself every day, like, what I need, and I listen to that. I think it's hard sometimes when you're first getting started to really be able to tune in and like know what's the difference if I'm avoiding something versus I need a break. But I think it's a cool practice that once you like, have done it over time, you start to really tune into it. But I ask myself what I need, I listen to it, and then I just say no. I say no to anything I don't want to do. Like I really, unless it's something that like, serves me in some amazing way and it's a short-term sacrifice, like I really say no to most things. And I think that's a powerful tool for living a simple life.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sharon Gutierrez. How can people reach you if they want to engage with you further?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can find me on like Instagram and all that stuff. It's Sharon, SharonE, Gutierrez, Gutierrez. I'm sure you put that somewhere in writing. But you can even just email me at Sharon@complimentsofsharon.com. Or you can go to the website and find my contact information there. But I would love to connect. I'll give you the link I have the Foundations of Empire. It's just a free course that I give out. So you guys can definitely log in there, but social media is the best way. Like I like to be on there. I like to talk to my people and share kind of what's going on in my life. And yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tika. I appreciate you so much.
You are
Thank
very
you for
welcome.
being
Thank
part
you
of
for having me.
Masterclass. You're welcome. Take care. I'll see you.
All right. Bye.